Away from Texas.
Yes, sir. Watch you every single day. Nobody lays it down like Uncle Neely and the pregame show.
Neely, pregame show behind the scenes of everything. And why does he get that kind of access? Why does he get that kind of access? Because trust is involved. You would never get the kind of access you desire unless there's trust and relationship. You trying to put your up on game.
Greetings to the Colorado Buffaloes. I want to thank Coach Prime for this opportunity to share in this devotional message. I hope it blesses you. Recently, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Coach Prime on the Atlantic Ocean. And during that same time, a storm was coming through, and it made us consider pondering changing our trip from the Atlantic to the Gulf, but the storm had both places compromised. I thought about that, how in the book of Genesis chapter 1, it says that God made the oceans and the seas in Genesis 1 chapter 9. And what's even deep about it is that the two largest bodies of water are the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. Very important, because half of the Earth's surface is comprised by those two bodies of water, the Pacific and the Atlantic. It's amazing to understand that, because the Pacific Ocean is the largest of those bodies. It's the largest, it has a higher surface. So the Pacific is bigger, but the Atlantic is more salty and it is more dense. The densities are different, the temperatures are different, the sediment different, the colors are different, the taste is different. They're different. And it is amazing, because when you talk about marine biology and research and oceanography, they say that the potential of the oceans are deep. This is where it applies to us. 700,000 to 1 million species of marine life are in the oceans. 700,000 to 1 million species in marine life. But 91% of marine life in the ocean hasn't been classified, which means only 9% of what's in the ocean has been really called and really labeled. I think that's important, because it speaks of the potential that's not seen. There are a lot of people today who look at our team and think there's not much potential. There are a lot of people today, if you look at DraftKings and other betting services, so many people don't see what's beneath the surface. They don't understand that what they see is only a minuscule in terms of what we have. We got to understand that there's unhidden potential. What's going to be unleashed on college football is going to be mind-blowing. But we can't worry about what they see and what they have not yet classified. We know who we are. We got to stand up and be strong and realize the potential that's within us in every position room, in every player. We got to stand up and realize there's unreleased potential. And we're going to make sure that by the time this year ends, everybody knows that all 100% of what's in us is going to be released on the globe. So let them keep saying, let them keep underestimating what they see. We know what's deep, and we're going to work and prepare during this camp to make sure that a weapon of destruction is going to be released on college football. What's even deeper, I want to share this with you, not just the potential, but understand this, that each ocean, the Pacific and Atlantic, when you look at marine biology and marine life, that they meet together at a certain place. It's interesting that the Pacific and the Atlantic meet at the tip in South America. But when they meet, what's important is they meet, but they don't mix. There are no boundaries, there are no lines, there are no rules, there are no regulations. The NCAA is not telling them you can't come this far. The Atlantic knows to go so far. The Pacific knows to go so far. They meet, but they don't mix. Now, this is why this is important. It's important because they're not supposed to mix. The Atlantic is supposed to stay in its place. The Pacific is supposed to stay in its place. And the closer they get together, you can see the color differences. You can see the temperature differences. But it's dangerous, because that place where they meet is difficult to navigate. The weather, the storms, the currents are rough, unpredictability. You know why? Because they're not supposed to be together. The question is, there are people in our lives that we meet them, but we're not supposed to mix with them. And what I want to say to us today, we have our own DNA. Each ocean has its own pH. Each ocean has its own DNA. And what's in the Pacific, not supposed to be in the Atlantic. What's in the Atlantic, not supposed to be in the Pacific. The question is, those who've come from different places through transfer portal, if you're here for the first time, we have our own DNA in Boulder. And guess what? When you come over here, you got to come and blend in. You got to come and assimilate. And you got to understand that what's in us got to be in you. You got to understand our pH, our DNA. We show up on time. We don't believe in being locked up regularly. We don't believe in drinking and driving. We don't believe in being disrespectful. We don't believe in mistreating women. No, we got a certain pH and DNA over here. And when you come over here, in order for you to assimilate, because if you don't want our culture, if you don't want to be a part of who we are, then it's going to be some turbulence, because the standard is the standard. You got to be conditioned, got to take care of your body, got to be to meetings on time and do what you're supposed to do. If not, it's going to be turbulence, because the Atlantic trying to meet the Pacific but don't have the same DNA and pH. The question I want to understand is, do you understand our culture? Do you understand what the standard is? And if you're coming over here bringing some Pacific stuff to the Atlantic, it's not going to ever work, because we got a pH and a DNA that's unique to us. Now, it's also important to understand this, that when you try to make these come together, you got to understand that they have marine life that are unique to their own habitat. And one of the problems is when these oceans come together, it's going to be turbulent with winds, because they're not supposed to be together. And sometimes when there's turbulence in the locker room, it's because there are people who are here who are not supposed to be here. And I want you to ask the question, are you causing the turbulence, or will you blend in peacefully? Will you have our same color? If we're aqua, are you going to be brown? Or are you going to put on what we put on in terms of culture, in terms of mentality, in terms of perspective? We got a pH and a DNA that's unique to us. Now, what's unique is this. In the Atlantic, there's several creatures that live in the Atlantic that don't live in the Pacific. Everything that's in the Atlantic don't live in the Pacific. When you go to the Northwest and the Northwest, there's certain types of food you can eat there. When you come to the South, you come to Miami, there's certain types of food that are there. And what happens a lot of times is when you try to live outside of where your habitat, it's going to be messed up and it's going to be crazy. And what has happened now is you got some marine biologists who are trying to be tricky. And so they took marine life and they took fish out of the Pacific and tried to force it in the Atlantic where it's not supposed to live. And sometimes when you put it outside of its element, it'll die. But then sometimes they put some fish out of the Pacific and put it in the Atlantic, and they call those lionfish. And what they're doing, they're killing the crabs, they're killing the sea bass, the salmon is dying. It's called an ecological disaster, because you got Pacific animals that are killing the large and devouring the fish, the whole climate of the Atlantic. And so the species is in trouble because something is in the Atlantic that's supposed to be in the Pacific. What I'm saying to you today is this. If you're going to be over here, you can't be over here devouring our culture. You can't be over here causing problems, destroying what we're trying to build. You got to come and assimilate. But ask yourself, am I supposed to be here? And if I'm here, am I embodying the characteristics of being smart, fast, tough, disciplined with character? Am I getting my work done? Am I embodying the right character and DNA and pH by showing up on time? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do by yes, sir, no, sir, taking care of my body, being well conditioned? Because if not, Pacific animals can't live in the Atlantic, and the species is going to be in trouble. So the next few weeks is going to determine, are you supposed to be in this DNA? Are you supposed to be in this climate? Did some of you make the right decisions? If you don't want to work hard and do what you're supposed to do, then maybe you're a Pacific animal and not an Atlantic animal. But today the choice is yours. As we get ready for North Dakota State, you got to ask yourself the question, am I assimilating? Do I want to be here? Am I going to do all I can to bring positivity to the environment? Or am I going to be one that's going to be a sea lion, that's going to try to be a lionfish, to devour the whole culture? Or am I going to die in this environment because I'm not supposed to be here? The choice is yours. I hope you can make it. We got a culture and a DNA. Don't cause an ecological or football disaster. Come with it. The choice is yours. Praying for you. Go Bus.
Give me 1 point he made, somebody. Yes, sir.
Choice is yours, Tyler Mix.
There you go, last one. Yes, sir.
We have our own culture.
We have our own culture here. What is that culture?
You gotta be smart, fast, disciplined, and character.
There you go. What does that mean, though? What does that really mean?
That means you have to embody everything that it means to be a buff. You have to be on top of your team.
bull, whatever.
The bull jump. Okay, there you go. I like what you said there. Anybody else?
The
only people that matter are the people inside these walls. I love that, mate. Anybody else? Don't be a cancer. Love that. Absolutely. What is a cancer? What is a cancer? Excuse me? A cancer is something that spreads to other people. What is a cancer? What is a cancer? What is a cancer? Coach Kelly, what is a cancer?
It's a disease that comes and destroys. It's one of those things where our culture is about me over me, but that particular cancer is me over me.
Don't that cancer starts on the inside?
It starts on the inside and deteriorates out.
There you go. Every possible type of not a normality will start from the inside. Your most critical sicknesses or diseases or things that can really take you out are things that start on the inside. What do you have on the inside of you? Because what you have on the inside of you, when pressure is applied, guess what? That comes out. The old toothpaste rule, when you squeeze something, whatever on the inside comes out. So now, ask the question, how are you squeezed? By coaches asking you to do something. By coaches demand that you do things the right way and consistently. Do you know that you're graded every day? Do y'all know that? Y'all know they give me a sheet every day with your grade on it? And one of the reasons they do that, because I don't know how it's going to go down or how it's going to pan out. But when you get mad and say, well, I should be starting, I'm going to say, well, look, your grade was 55. The whole darn, well, I don't care. How you supposed to be starting? And his grade is this, his grade is that, his grade is this. How's that right? Because this is what you put on tape, right? Anything else that gleaned from today? Oh, nobody know nothing now, right? We're good. Let me see today's schedule.